Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Wednesday edition of the show, and we have an action-packed episode for you. Baker Mayfield spoke today. Jordan Whitehead signed with the Bucs. And, oh, by the way, even though it feels like a week ago, yesterday, after we finished the podcast, Lavonte David re-signed with the Buccaneers. So we got a lot to get into on today's show with a lot of clips from the press conference with Baker Mayfield as well as we break it down. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com. It is SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, Bucs have been in the news, have they not?
Oh, man, that is an understatement. Holy smokes! Listen, news happens at the drop of a hat, a dime, whatever the phrase is. We had kind of an uneventful day yesterday, right? In terms of our podcast, we kind of thought about, hey, nothing happened, and then all of a sudden, and we
up
hinted,
until 5 p.m.
Exactly, yeah. We hinted the Jordan Whitehead, right? That was something that was in the works a little bit. Tweeted about it last night, had it in the free agency tracker. You and I talked about it. Matt, you even had it in your Bucs battle plan.
I did,
to re-sign Jordan
finally
Whitehead.
got one right after all these years.
No, but it made perfect sense. And, had probed some team sources yesterday and even into, what's today, Wednesday, Monday night. Is this an option? And, what I heard back was, if the price is right, yes, we're interested. And that's the big thing. And I think for Jordan Whitehead's deal, and we're going to talk about Baker Mayfield today. We have a lot of great clips. Boy, Baker and Jason Light had some really good comments today. We're going to get into.
Jason Light was putting on a comedy show today.
He was, but let's go with the freshest news, shall we?
Yes.
Jordan Whitehead's return to Tampa. Boy, what a huge signing, Matt. This really is a great fit for so many reasons. Number one, he knows the system. He helped win a Super Bowl in Tampa, playing next to Antoine Winfield Jr., who's awfully excited about his return to Tampa Bay to team up with Winfield again. Winfield and Whitehead is just a dynamic duo.
Yes.
Winfield is more probably the splashier guy, but Whitehead, he can make some splashes too. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Just ask Aaron Jones, right? One of the biggest plays of the 2020 season, Whitehead with that forced fumble, and really helped put the Packers away in the third quarter. The Buccaneers scored a touchdown after that turnover, and it also knocked Jones out of the game and knocked Whitehead out of the game. But he returned a couple weeks later to play in the Super Bowl with a shoulder injury, and it's such a great fit because this was a big hole for the Buccaneers. Now they don't have to address that with the safety, and they don't have to do it early in the draft. If they want to draft another one for depth, that's fine, but it does not have to be in day one or day two. And I think at the same time, Matt, it takes some pressure off of Kayvon Merriweather having to step up and be in that role. This is an experienced guy, knows this system, knows this scheme. A Todd Bowles favorite. It just makes so much sense on so many different levels.
Yeah, it completely solidifies the back end of the safety room, which will continue to be highlighted by Antoine Winfield Jr. And you bring back a duo that's been great. And, a lot of times with the running backs, there's the saying, if you have like a 2 running back combo, it's the thunder and the lightning type of thing. Yeah. And Jordan Whitehead, for sure, is the thunder. He brings those hits, and he can ignite the team with that physicality. And again, physicality in a modern day NFL. And Antoine Winfield Jr. is more than just lightning because he does everything else, but he does fit the lightning moniker for this. So I love the fact that it's a new free agent, but it's also not a new free agent because it's a player that the Bucs are extremely familiar with. Began his career with the Bucs, got drafted in 2018, played for Tampa Bay from 2018 to 2021, won that Super Bowl in 2020, and then spent the last 2 years with the Jets. So it is a new player, but there's not going to really be too much of that issue with, what is it like playing with this new teammate? How's the communication with the new strong safety? Because you already had that communication. And Antoine Winfield Jr. immediately jumped on Twitter and Instagram, kind of celebrating the signing of Jordan Whitehead, So yeah, this is a great signing. 2-year deal worth $9 million and a max of $10.5 million.
Yep.
So we're talking about $4.5 million per season. Again,
Yep.
some of the projections were $6 million originally.
Exactly.
$6.5 million. Now all the defensive backs, like we were talking about yesterday, those defensive backs become available. That
Right.
drives the price down just a little bit for Jordan Whitehead. So Whitehead still gets paid. He clearly wants to be in Tampa Bay. He was on social media about it. We know Todd Bowles is going to be extremely happy. So they re-signed Lavonte David.
Yeah.
They make sure Antoine Winfield Jr. stays in-house. And now they bring in a piece that they were really trying to solidify since Jordan Whitehead left for the New York Jets. And they've had guys come in and out, and there's been varying degrees of success. But now you bring back Jordan Whitehead, adds another piece to that defensive room. And yeah, I think you're spot on with what you said about taking the pressure off of some of the other guys because Jordan Whitehead's not going to feel it.
You mentioned communication, Matt, and that's one of the big things that he brings to the table too. Is we saw, and he is a splashy player. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we just got unblocked by Jordan Whitehead. I don't want to say anything that's going to get us blocked on Twitter or X by that again. No, but the thing is he can make the splash plays. But really, I think what his value is he's such a steady player. He's a steady Eddie. He's consistent, right? He doesn't really have bad games. And we've seen, and I'm not piling on Ryan Neal on his way out the door, but just calling it, I mean, it's the eye in the sky doesn't lie. You put on the film, you see the blown coverages that Ryan Neal had last year. And if Ryan Neal just played steady football, didn't have to be splashy or get the interceptions or the forced fumbles that Whitehead can get. But where Whitehead has some value is just in coverage, making tackles, doing the things that a strong safety is supposed to do. And I think that alone makes the secondary better because he's a good communicator. He does bring the fire. He's a very energetic player. And not to say that Antoine Winfield Jr. isn't. He is a team captain after all. But there's just something about Whitehead and his ability to really fire it up. And he's a hard hitter. That this is a guy that again works extremely well.
Woodshed.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, he will lay the lumber, and it's a really good signing for the Buccaneers. And Matt, the other thing too is the Super Bowl experience is valuable, especially when you've got a younger football team, right? You want guys that have been there and done that. And let's be honest. Ryan Jensen retired this year. That's one Super Bowler out the door. Shaq Barrett got released, right? Devin White's not going to return. Those are three. Carlton Davis got traded away. That's four guys that have Super Bowl experience that are not going to be on this roster this year. And now you're bringing a guy back that has been there and done that in Jordan Whitehead.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And to add on top of the leadership or just kind of bringing a spark, Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to be the leader in that safety room. But even Antoine Winfield Jr. will say that he is a lead by example type of guy. And that's why it was such a big thing last season when he spoke up to the team and kind of made a big speech. That's why like Baker was talking about it. Tristan Wirfs was talking about it because it came as like such a surprise, really. So now I think Antoine can continue to be a leader, but lead in his own way, which is by example, kind of set the precedent for everybody else. And if the Bucs need like an in-game pep or something, and that happens to every single team throughout the year. Like sometimes you need those smelling salts. You need to get it going. And Jordan Whitehead can be that guy. And it could be with his voice, but it also could be with something like making that big hit. Like Antoine Winfield Jr. isn't going to save every single play at the goal line, knocking the ball out for a touchback. Sometimes you just need a big hit on, 2nd and 5 to take like a 2 or 3 yard loss. And that's exactly what Jordan Whitehead will do. So overall, I think this is a really good signing for the Bucs. It for sure fits a need that Tampa Bay was looking to fill this offseason, and they do it now.
Have to draft one. You don't have to draft a strong safety early.
Unless it comes to them. And if it comes to them, then great. Then they have awesome depth moving forward for that season. Let's get to the super chat from Lucas Patisse. Thank you, Lucas. Your super chat came right away, so appreciate your patience with it. Lucas says, do you think that they will get a free agent edge rusher or draft one? As always, love the show, guys. Let's freaking bake.
Yeah. Well, I think there's certainly a possibility at 26, right? If there's an edge rusher there that they like, that they see value in, or they could trade back into the top part of the second round. There's some guys that they like. Adisa Isaac from Penn State's one of those guys. Chris Braswell from Alabama is another one. Both those guys have been our first two mock drafts. Braswell was in the first round. He's probably a second rounder, but he's a first rounder back in our January mock draft. And then we had Isaac in our second round of our second mock draft. I think that Marshawn Nealand from Western Michigan is another guy to keep an eye on, that they have some real interest in. That could be a guy in the second round to take a look at. But I think they're going to draft one. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka still in that rookie deal. He's not going to get the fifth-year option picked up, but he's in a contract year. This team does like, and Jason Light made no bones about it in front of me and you and Bailey and Sly and Josh and Indy. He likes Marquise Watts. He likes Jose Ramirez. There's some young talent on this team that sometimes you just need the opportunity and a chance. And, it's like you sit there and say, well, these guys are undrafted free agents, or Jose Ramirez was the last pick. He was a 6th-round pick last year. Okay, well, Shaq Barrett was undrafted in Denver, right? And had to sit behind Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, for those years and bide his time and be part of that rotation. And he got an opportunity in Tampa Bay, and boom, look out. So I think that with Yaya Diaby and still have Anthony Nelson, there's enough guys on this team, even if they don't draft one, that you can get by. You're not going to fill every single hole, this year, right? It's not going to happen. There's going to be one or two positions you're always going to have to continue to stockpile, and maybe that slides into 2025. But I do think that they're going to get another young pass rusher in the draft to add to this mix, because Nelson and JTS are in the final years of their deals.
Yeah, and I don't think you can just assume we're just going to completely rely on Yaya Diaby and Marquise Watts. You have to bring in someone else to, if anything, just push Jose Ramirez and Marquise Watts. And at the same time, you can't just say, he's a undrafted free agent, he's not going to be able to do anything. Yeah. Well, if that was the case, then Cam Brate would have never made the team and ended up being the second best tight end in team history. So sometimes you do find those diamonds in the rough, and they do make great careers for themselves, as you just mentioned, Shaq Barrett. So who knows? Maybe Marquise Watts is the next big thing, but you got to see it first, and they also can't just completely guarantee that it's going to happen as well. So I definitely do think.
I was going to say, the pass rushers kind of really whittled down, right? There's not many left in free agency, with Josh Uche staying in New England.
That's surprising. The whole, he's going to take crazy less money to go stay in New England for a team that's not good. If it was like the dynasty of Brady, then I get it. But I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. Karen Butt says, a lot of talk on social media about possibly trading for Josh Sweat. Your opinions if that did happen? If it was a 2nd-round pick, if you're going to get a Josh Sweat from Philadelphia, the defensive end, who I think had 6.5 sacks last year, and I believe had 10 or 11 the year before, so he has the ability to be a double-digit sacker. But if you get him for a 2nd-round pick, still a young guy on his rookie deal, 26 years old, I'd be all in favor of that, because we've seen Jason Light execute a trade for a pass rusher before, sending a 3rd-round pick to the Giants back in 2018, I think, for Jason Pierre-Paul. Right. So that would not be out of his wheelhouse to make that type of a deal, especially for a pass rusher. And it all depends. This is not a great edge draft. There's probably 3 or 4 guys in this draft that I think could really make a difference for Tampa Bay. And then it's like, okay, well, there's other teams that need pass rushers too. And are you guaranteed to get one of those 3 or 4 guys, right? That's the thing. And so I think Tampa Bay is going to go offensive line in the 1st round, and probably defensive and I should say outside linebacker, edge rusher, if you will, in the 2nd round, and then address the secondary with their 2 3rd-round picks. That seems like a Jason Light battle plan for their draft picks. So if you're going to draft an edge in the 2nd round, why not get a proven guy like a Josh Sweat, who's young, who has some experience, who's better than JTS, Anthony Nelson, etc., and you pair him opposite Yaya Diaby, and look out. So if it happens, I'm all in favor of it. But then you've got to pay him next year when
Mhm.
his deal comes up. So there is that too. You're going to have another big payment for a pass rusher. You're going to have to commit to that because otherwise you're burning a second round pick on a guy just for 1 year and renting him. That's not a sound strategy.
Right, and it's one of the many options that the Bucks have to go through. It does sound like a Jason Light battle plan to take a defensive back in that third round. So, yeah,
Yeah.
really, like the second round is kind of where you're shaking the eight ball, saying, "What are they going to do
Yeah.
with this round?" Because it does seem like first round is kind of figured out as well. But sticking with the current Buccaneers, we got a super chat from Nicholas Rodriguez. Thank you, Nicholas, for the 4.99 super chat. Who says, "Scott, do you think that Todd Bowles is a Super Bowl caliber coach?"
Ah,
Good question.
that's a very good question. I saw Todd Bowles make some strides last year, and Matt, I want to get your opinion on this too. I don't want
Yeah.
to speak for you, but this is a coach who has struggled a little bit on game days in terms of game management, use of timeouts, which has been maddening, or I should say, lack
Yes.
thereof. But I love the fact he went for it more on fourth down, trusted the offense more in fourth and short situations, was more aggressive. And then also at the same time, instead of punting the ball, decided to trot out Money McLaughlin for a
Yeah.
56-yard kick and get 3 points on the board, right? Instead of playing it a little bit more conservative, well, we're going to trust our defense. No, like go get some points. So I did see some strides there. And at the end of the season, he was using timeouts in the first half.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? But it just, yes, if he continues to grow, continues to learn from his past mistakes, continues to ascend as a coach, he's got to figure out the Lions, man. He's got to figure
He
out Jared
does.
Goff. That game plan against the Eagles. Now, granted, they were kind of in the downward spiral, but how many times have we seen the Buccaneers over the years, whether it was Bruce Arians as head coach or Todd Light, lose to inferior teams, right? Stub their toe, or not play up to their level of expectations. The Buccaneers did what they were supposed to do against the Eagles: stomp them into the
Yeah.
ground, bury them, and that's exactly what they did. 32-9. His defense got a safety, completely shut down the Eagles' offense. It was a brilliant, masterful game plan. A game plan that, frankly, we probably hadn't seen that good of a game plan since the Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But the fact that Bowles pulled that out of his hat tells me he can still be a defensive mastermind. And he's had some good, game plans as well. The Packers game I thought was really good
Mhm.
defensively, et cetera. But that was just a shining example. But then you run into that Lions buzzsaw. You still haven't figured out Jared Goff. So to me,
Mhm.
guess what, Matt? You got the 49ers on the schedule again. You got the
You have the
Lions on the
Lions.
schedule again. So a couple of these demons that can get exercised. If Bowles can get some regular season wins against San Francisco, against the Lions, that is going to give me a lot more confidence that this team, from a talent perspective, I think is getting there. And
Mhm.
if he can match that growth with his own growth as a coach, yeah, I think he can get there, but he's got to continue to ascend. Matt, what do you think?
I think he can reach the point of being a Super Bowl winning coach, but I do not by any means think that he is there yet. And I
I agree.
respect Todd Bowles. I enjoy talking with him on a regular basis, during the season and on days like today when he's here for these events.
Yeah.
But the flaws of Todd Bowles, I think, concern me a lot more than where Todd Bowles has kind of made progress. And I love that he made progress overall of being an aggressive coach, to your point, Scott, about electing to go for it on fourth down a lot more and choosing to kick a long field goal instead of just punting it. I think those are great things that are trending in the right direction. The timeouts still drive me nuts, and that was an issue with him going back to his time with the New York Jets. And you would think he would figure it out by now, but no,
Yeah.
he has not figured out the timeout situation. I have major concerns about Todd Bowles and his personnel use. I mean, we talked about it on yesterday's show. Why do you always just have a package of the backup outside linebackers playing when they do? Like, why not on third down put in
Yeah.
a pass rushing specialist like Marquise Watts or mix it up a
Yes.
little bit? I think he's way too slow in making personnel moves, whether it's benching Joe
Yep.
Tryon-Shoyinka. We can go back to Luke Gedeke 2 seasons ago at guard when he shouldn't have been in there anymore. There's nothing that really tells me that Todd Bowles is going to push the button to make the call when it's necessary. I do think he does, with the exception of the Lions and the 49ers, he does learn from his mistakes of playing against a team that maybe ran roughshod on the Bucs and can tend to get the better of them. I think he deserves credit for dismantling the Philadelphia Eagles for his first career playoff win. But let's also be realistic. He deserves credit for the game plan and everything like that. But they kicked the crap out of the Philadelphia Eagles where he didn't have to make a crucial decision in that game. And then when the going got tough against the Lions in the second round of the playoffs, he didn't go for it late in the game in the fourth quarter. He didn't call that timeout when he could have at least forced the Lions to make a decision on fourth down. So it's those decisions and the things that people get angry at about Todd Bowles every single week that draws major concern. Also, I get it. There's coach speak and every coach lies. He's a bad liar. And we call out Todd Bowles time after time after time. And I don't think that's I think lying is fine as a head coach, but when you're a bad liar and you can kind of sniff it out right away to the point where reporters are going, wait, hold on a second. So those things really concern me a lot more. I think one thing that Bowles has going for him, which is a great trait as a head coach, forget about all the in-game adjustments and everything like that. The players love him, and the message has not gotten hollow or, in one ear and out the other. And especially what they went through last season, that's commendable by Todd Bowles to keep this group together after a big-time losing streak where they were literally on the balance of just imploding. So
he was coaching for his job.
That's the one trait that I think is, that's Todd Bowles' armor right now, because that's
a
great gadget to have in the Batman belt, kind of like what you were talking about on yesterday's show. So I think he can get there, but he's got to clean up a lot of things. Let's remember, they went 8-9 his first year as head coach, and then 9-8, and they made a great playoff run. But let's not act here like he's winning 12, 13, 14 games this season.
They were 4-7 at one point, Matt. You're exactly right. Yeah. The only thing I'll say is there is the chance for growth, right? I mean, the knock on Andy Reid, who's, look at him now, right?
100%. That's great.
In Philadelphia was, he couldn't win the big one, right? He struggled. He had Donovan McNabb. He had a great defense.
Got there, I think, which is also important. He got to the NFC Championship games. He had a lot of winning seasons and had a lot of home games because they were winning regular season games. That hasn't been the case just yet with Bowles, but I think it is a really good point for sure. Great conversation, great topic, great conversation. We can continue this all during the summer and as we get closer to the season as well. So let's keep the super chats moving. Appreciate you guys. Got some great super chats. Meets McGee, $2 super chat says, so who are they looking at now at center?
Well, I think there's a couple options still in free agency. Brian Allen, who was cut by the Rams,
that's the big
is somebody I think when healthy can play really well. Then you've got Coleman or Shelton Coleman Shelton. I think is it Coleman Shelton or Shelton Coleman? He's the other guy with the Rams, and he was the starter. And there's some conversation that the Rams want him back. So Bradley Bozeman is another player. Carolina cut him. I liked him a lot in college. I also liked him when he was leaving the Baltimore Ravens a couple of years ago. He signed a 2-year deal with, or actually more than 2-year deal because they just cut him. I think it was a 3-year deal. Coleman Shelton, thank you. But with Carolina, and the biggest thing is just the pass protection. He gave up 8 sacks last year. Maybe some of that is due to Bryce Young, right, being a rookie and not getting rid of the ball or whatever. But really good in the run game, big, powerful mover in terms of moving bodies, line of scrimmage. But he's got some work to do in pass protection. If you sign him, if you're Tampa Bay, if you sign him, it better be for a 1-year deal, 1-year prove a deal on the cheap, and he's competition for Ryan or for Robert Hainsey. He's not going to replace him right out of the gate, but I think that's a name. And then there's a lot of guys in this draft, right? This team could go with Duke's Graham Barton, who could play left guard. He also can play center. There's Zach Frazier from West Virginia, Cedric Van Pran. There's a lot of good centers in this draft. Plus, there's also some guys that Jason Light could draft as a left tackle and move him inside the center. So um, they'll get somebody other than Robert Hainsey, I think, in there at center this year. But the free agency, there's only a couple guys left.
There will be a new center, that's for sure. And the draft does seem like the big way that the Bucs will go about it. So that kind of plays into this $20 super chat from Richie P. Thank you so much, Richie, who says, off-season has been lots of fun. Thanks to you guys for all the work you do. Appreciate you, Richie, for that comment.
Thank you, Richie.
Yeah. With Let's Freaking Bake in the fold, I think that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that Graham Barton has surpassed Jackson Powers Johnson in mocks. Have you noticed the same, or is it just me? Well, it's interesting you say that because one thing that's been a great tool for us, I know a lot of us use it for the Bucs battle plan, is the Pro Football Focus mock draft. And, they have
draft simulator.
Draft simulator, excuse me. And, they have different settings you can like put it to. And I usually try to keep it as like normal and regular as possible.
Yeah.
So when I was doing my mock draft for the Bucs battle plan, Jackson Powers Johnson was still on the board. And I was actually kind of surprised because I kind of figured like he'll be off the board, and I was kind of zeroing in on Graham Barton. But as soon as JPJ was there, I was like, oh, all right, I cannot type faster to click that button and get him to the scene.
Yeah.
I think it's more of just with the Eagles. Now, the fact that Fletcher Cox is no longer with the Eagles, that may kind of change their motive a little bit, but they did make a lot of signings in free agency. But the loss of Jason Kelce obviously makes a lot of people think that JPJ could go to the Eagles, but that's not a guarantee by any means. And there's just been so much rising stock with Jackson Powers Johnson that kind of feels like he's not going to be there at 26 when the Bucs do pick. And therefore, Graham Barton is kind of the next big thing, potentially at center or interior line for the Bucs. So that's kind of how it's been.
Yeah, this is another guy to keep an eye on too. Darius Miller writes, surprised Connor Williams wasn't picked up yet. I know he's rehabbing. Yeah, so Connor Williams started his career in Dallas, played guard, then they moved him to center with Miami. And I think he was one of the best centers in the league last year. He tore his ACL in week 14, which is a devastating loss for the Dolphins. And now he's a free agent. Well, he's kind of damaged goods right now because the injury happened so late in the season. Now, at the same time, keep in mind, Chris Godwin tore his ACL back in 2021, right around that time, and he was able to make it back at the start of the season. Now, running routes is one thing, right? On a rehabbed knee, a surgically repaired knee, right? Running routes, it's a lot of torquing, sticking your foot in the ground and all that stuff. At the same time, anchoring against a 350-pound nose tackle, right? That's something else. Trying to get enough surge to move bodies on the line of scrimmage, that's something else. So I don't know what the timetable is for Connor Williams, but if this guy was healthy, he'd already been signed by now for mega money in free agency. This might be a guy the Buccaneers might be willing to take a chance on and say, okay, we at least have Robert Hainsey, who's like a C, grade center. He's maybe above average, however you want to look at Hainsey. You've got him, and he's been a 2-year starter. He's serviceable. You can get by. But then when this guy gets healthy, he has the talent and the ability to basically supplant him, right? So that could be a situation where the Bucs are kind of in the catbird seat because you already have Hainsey, a guy who you can win with. He may not there. It might be a big drop off, right, from Ryan Jensen where he was to Robert Hainsey. But Connor Williams, when he's healthy, he's closer to Ryan Jensen than Hainsey will ever be. So that might be something to keep an eye on. The longer that Connor Williams is out there, the more likely it is, as this free agency money dries up, as this cap room dries up, there may not be a big deal for Connor Williams. And because he might miss the start of the season, he might have to take a 1-year prove-it deal to prove that he is back healthy and worth it. And why not do that in Tampa Bay, where Jason Light would love to sign you up, anybody, to a 1-year prove-it deal for cheap.
And that's what we've talked about, just waiting for the Bucs to make more moves in wave 2 and wave 3 and wave 4. And The more that he kind of stays out there, the more enticing Tampa Bay becomes because they want to improve at center.
Yeah.
They play in the state of Florida, so there's still no state income tax, which
Right.
Jason Light was very adamant about saying today, how it's one of his go-to bargaining chips when
Yep.
talking to free agents. So yeah, why not? I think the Bucs are going to exhaust every single resource that they possibly can to make this offensive line better, because there is an argument to be made that you stabilize the offensive line, this offense can, really, really go places. Even whatever happens with tight end, they got everything else in place to really be a top quality group, especially with Baker
Yeah.
and Mike Evans back. So it's all about just kind of getting that run game going.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to get yourself going in the morning, Matt, I know that
Oh,
there's an energy drink for you.
there is. That was a great segue. Yes, of course. If you want to get yourself going, make sure you get it started with Celsius Energy Drinks, the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast. And more specifically, the newest line of Celsius. They have the Celsius Essentials, which are 270 milligrams of caffeine. They're the tall boys of Celsius. Check out some of their new flavors like the Blue Crush and the Dragonberry. A lot of great flavors of Celsius. So maybe if you like some of the originals, like the Tropical Vibe, Strawberry Lemonade, Peach Vibe, Arctic Vibe, all the vibes are great. Awesome flavors of Celsius. If you need to know where to find any flavor of Celsius, go to the store locator on their website, punch in your address, and it'll tell you the closest location where you could pick one up. Could be a Walmart, a health and fitness store, a 7-Eleven, or if you're lucky enough, it might just be your bodega.
Bodega.
And once you keep going to your bodega and you love Celsius and you want more and you want to get it in bulk, you can get it in bulk. That's when you go over to Amazon. Get that variety pack. This variety is the spice of life. You heard me rattle off all the great flavors that they have. Go to Amazon, do the subscribe and save, and you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. You're in charge. You're the captain. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks. Make Celsius your number one pick. Celsius, the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast.
Well, for tomorrow's show, going to be talking more Jordan Whitehead.
Yes, we will.
He's back with the Bucs and kind of how he is a great scheme fit and how that's going to help Todd Bowles. So we touched on a little bit today. That'll be more of the focus for tomorrow's show. And also maybe a look at what Whitehead's addition means for the Bucs draft and taking safety off the board altogether, or maybe just pushing that need down the list a little bit because it's a little bit lesser of a need now. So make sure you stay tuned to tomorrow's Pewter Report podcast at 4 o'clock. Jordan Whitehead's back with the Bucs, and who knows, they might sign more free agents, and Whitehead will be on the back burner, and somebody else will be front and center. So we've kind of put back Baker Mayfield on the back burner today, but he had a great press conference today with Jason Light. Let's get to some clips, Matt, because Baker and Jason Light had a lot to say.
Yes, they did. We'll start with the opening statements made by each person, starting with Jason Light.
Huge day for Emily and Baker, and we're just extremely excited for both parties for this thing. A year ago at the Combine, starting around the Combine, Todd was hitting me up with a text, a call, or come down to my office at least twice a day, asking me, when are we going to make? I said, well, there's some rules here. We'll do the best we can. He had a lot of confidence in me. He developed a relationship with him when he was with the Jets in the 2018 draft. We had Baker as our number one quarterback in that draft on our rankings, and so we had a lot of confidence in him. But nobody had more confidence than Baker. And it was about a year ago today, I don't know exactly to the day, when I called him to congratulate him, you could feel the confidence that he was ready to come in here and take advantage of the situation. He had us circled as the best place to go. We had him circled as the best player to come and follow the legend, Tom Brady, and not many quarterbacks would have the confidence to do that. But Baker certainly did. We love his leadership, love his ability on the field, but his leadership, his ability to rally the team, the city, the fan base, has been surreal. So with that, I'm going to give you a break.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And then Baker Mayfield.
Say thank you, Blazer family, all the front office guys, my agent, everybody that worked on this to get this done. As Jason mentioned, last year, and truly the last few years of my career, a lot of ups and downs, and just to be able to have Emily by my side the whole time and see it through, and have the opportunity to come here is a place that knows how to win from top down, and they do it well from the people that I've talked to before even getting here. And none of those words were a lie. Obviously, knew Coach Bowles coming into it. Got to know Jason pretty quickly, and just knowing the staff and the key pieces that they have here were obviously a good look to try and sign here and know I have a chance to play and prove myself, and with just the opportunity. God had a plan for me and saw it through, and just the group we had as well made it so special last year. Made it a big reason why I wanted to come back here, knowing we have a lot of the same staff coming back, key pieces. We were close. We made a good run there at the end, but I don't think any of our guys were satisfied. But it was the group that stuck together through all the highs and lows that made it so special for us. And now I'm looking forward to being able to push for a deeper playoff run. Obviously, if it's not a Super Bowl, only one team's happy in the end. So that's the goal here, is to try and win a couple. And very thankful for this opportunity. And we call Tampa home now. And it's obviously welcome another key piece to our family, adding a little girl in the family here pretty soon. And just a lot of exciting things for us. And we're really, really blessed and can't say enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. Baker Mayfield and his wife Emily are expecting a little girl here any day now, really, like in a week or so. Yeah. And Tristan Wirfs and his girlfriend Meredith also expecting right around the same time frame. So Baker and Tristan have become like best friends here in Tampa. They roomed together last year in the quad at training camp. It was Baker Mayfield, Robert Hainsey, Luke Gedeke, and Tristan Wirfs. So very cool. One thing Baker said after the press conference, he had a chance to talk to the media. and Meredith is about 6 feet tall, right? Tristan is like 6'5".
Yeah.
And Baker says, I feel sorry for Meredith. That's going to be a big baby. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's exciting to see both these guys go through this at the same time, about to be fathers for the first time. And boy, for Baker, the timing couldn't be better.
Yeah.
To be able to buy a house and plant some roots here in Tampa. And Baker shared with us after the press conference. He said, yeah, I was kind of touch and go a little bit. He had to look around. He had to kind of explore plan B in case it didn't work out in Tampa. And the interesting thing that he said was, like I would have had to have become a dad here in Tampa and then move to a new city if it didn't work out. But it did. And then one of the things that Baker Mayfield was asked about, and he didn't really shy away from it. It's interesting that when you look at Baker Mayfield, he's still the third highest paid quarterback in this division.
Wild.
Behind Derek Carr, making $37.5 million, and Kirk Cousins. And he's an absolute bargain for the Buccaneers, as we posted on X the other day. And he was asked about that. And I'm not sure if you have a clip about that.
Yeah.
Matt.
He was asked about, if he left some money on the table based on, what Kirk Cousins got, obviously, and Baker's own negotiations. And this is what he had to say.
The contract and what Kirk Cousins got, comparable, or maybe could argue a better younger player yourself. Is it fair to say that you left some money on the table here to get these other guys done, as Jason's been able to get all your teammates done, and there's more work to do? And was that part of the strategy?
For me, I said it immediately after our Detroit game. Following the loss, there's to build a winning team and to have a lot of the key pieces that we needed back to continue this run and improve it. Some sacrifice have to be made. Now, listen, this is life-changing money, and I'm not going to act like otherwise. It's something that I've worked extremely hard for over the years and many years of football. So I'm grateful for it. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing to say, oh, well, he got more. And then it's not that mentality. Knowing that we have a chance to bring back some key pieces and make a further run in the playoffs, that's important to me. I'm a winner at heart. I hate losing. So knowing that we get a lot of guys back and we can continue to build this for years to come is a special thing.
I enjoyed a lot of what Baker had to say there because one, it's still a ton of money, and as he said, it's life-changing money.
Yeah.
So it's not like Baker's getting shortchanged by any means.
Yeah.
And even though Baker took over after Tom Brady, he is taking a little bit of a Tom Brady approach, which is
Right.
if I want to win, other people have to be retained and brought back. And the
Yes.
only way that's going to happen is if I take a little bit less money so we can go and re-sign Mike Evans. So Jordan Whitehead can come back
Right.
on that deal. So I really liked what Baker had to say there because it's true. Like maybe it
Yep.
took a little bit less money, but you know what? If the Bucs win the division and they sweep the Falcons and they go and make it to the NFC Championship game,
Right.
no one's going to care that people are going to mock the Falcons for paying all of
Yes.
that money, much like we all mocked the Saints for the Derek Carr
Right.
contract last year. So who really cares if Derek Carr is getting a little bit more money when Baker is the one winning the division, gets a new contract, still making a lot of money? And you know what? The offers, the sponsorships, the ads, those will all come to Baker Mayfield, and he will start making more money than Derek Carr
And
and
you know
Kirk
what?
Cousins.
He's making more money than Tom Brady made in Tampa Bay, too.
Yeah.
Brady signed for $25 million a year. So Baker Mayfield has the distinction of being the highest paid quarterback in Bucs history, even more than Tom Brady by a lot. So there's that. I don't think Baker can shrug that off,
And he was asked about those expectations as well that, everyone's picking the Falcons again. Well, guess what? Baker don't give a damn.
Yeah, the expectation on the outside, if you pay attention to that, you're not doing it right. And just knowing the people we have in this building, we set our own standard. We know what our own expectation is. We know the pieces that we have. We're capable of winning a Super Bowl. And so you set that standard. You don't let anybody dip below that line. And so for us, the guys we have a lot of the same guys coming back that we were there. Once you get a taste of losing in the playoffs, it makes you driven even more. And so for us, knowing that we were a little bit short in the playoffs and just to continue to push. And there was a lot of lessons we learned last year as a team as well. To obviously starting out 3-1, then going to 4-7, and having to win 5 out of 6 of the last ones to get into the playoffs. So we were battle tested, but knowing that we can control that, there's things that can go your way, but as long as you stay the course, good things will happen.
It's kind of funny. One of the things that I asked Jason Light about was Baker's mental and physical toughness, right? He's got the arm. We know that. He can chuck the football all over the field. He's got the leadership ability, right? But I think one of the traits that really has helped the Buccaneers over the last couple of seasons win the NFC South is the fact that their quarterbacks have always been healthy, right? They haven't missed a start. And we saw that with Baker's mental and physical toughness. And Jason Light had very colorful comments about this and quite funny as well.
He did. It was, in my opinion, the quote of the day. So let's get to it.
Obviously, Baker's got a strong arm, very talented quarterback, leadership ability off the charts. But his toughness, mental and physical toughness, the reason why you guys have been in the playoffs 4 years in a row, your starting quarterback has not missed a single start. 3 years with Brady, last year with Baker. He was hurt, but battled through that. How much does toughness, Baker's mental and physical toughness, mean to this organization and to you as a talent evaluator?
Well, it means everything. He set the tone for this team with his, well, for lack of a better word, he's probably a 1 out of 10. He's a 10 on the prick scale. So, sorry.
Thank you. I'll take that.
So it's like that's what you want your offensive lineman. And Baker's kind of an offensive lineman in a quarterback's body. So it's what's rallied this team this year. He's a big part of it.
A 10 on the prick scale in terms of Jason Light. I absolutely love that. It was a great comment. Again, Jason had like a bunch of one-liners today. He was talking about Baker's contract and mentioned no state income tax, like made sure to get that in. And it's funny because during the season, Todd Bowles had said that Baker has an offensive lineman's mentality. So it's not exactly the first time we've kind of heard others talk about the grit and the toughness of Baker Mayfield. But then Light takes it a step further with being a prick and having the he's in an offensive lineman's body, or a quarterback's body with the offensive lineman mentality. So loved it.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Sticking with the trenches, if you will, Baker Mayfield's offensive line mentality. How about a defensive lineman? How about a pass rusher? Let's what Meets McGee has to say here. $5 super chat. Thank you. Please, for God's sakes, no Chase Young. He has put Devin White type effort on tape. Hell no. The eye in the sky doesn't lie, as Warren Sapp would say. I'm not a huge fan of Chase Young. Just don't think that for the money that he wants to command, that he's all that. I think he's a little overrated. And went out to San Francisco, had I think 2.5 sacks down the stretch. He has not lived up to that number 1 overall draft billing. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's elite. And if he wants to come here, though, on a 1-year prove-it deal, really, really cheap, there's some talent there. I think he would certainly upgrade the talent currently in the outside linebacker room. But I'm not going to stand on the table for this, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd be down to kick the tires if it was nothing more than like a $3 million deal. And I don't know if Chase Young necessarily wants to do that. But let's remember, Washington did not pick up his 5th-year option. They traded him for a reason. And yeah, like San Francisco, it made sense. Like they needed depth at edge rusher, and they already had a great defense, so they didn't need to rely on him or ask him to do too much. For the money, again, if it's very, very cheap, sure, why not throw him into the mix? Let him, like we talked about earlier on the show, let him push Marquise Watts. Let him push Jose Ramirez, or really pretty much everyone in the room, including Yaya Diaby. But it would have to be the right price. I'd be more than fine with either ponying up for a more established edge rusher, but a lot of those guys have really come off the board, or just find an edge rusher in the draft that you can bring in, craft, develop, and help make a better player at your own disposal. So
speaking of Devin White,
King Duffy, thanks for the $4.99 super chat, says, do you think Devin White comes back on a team-friendly deal, considering the Patrick Queen signing and the video of him and Whitehead on his Insta story?
I think Devin White wants to come back now. He's not had any action in free agency.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably blowing up Todd Bowles' phone, and I think Todd would love to have him back. I don't know that's the feeling of the rest of the Bucs brass. So, it would surprise me at this point, based upon what I've heard in terms of the direction this team wants to go. I think the fact that KJ Britt was more of the steady Eddie at inside linebacker last year, and Devin can kind of rock the boat a little bit. He did that in the offseason with the social media shenanigans.
Yep.
His love for the Eagles and stuff when he's supposed to be a Buccaneer playing on his 5th-year option. The opting not to play against the Packers. I don't know, man. This team's going to be better off without him. I really think that. Now, watch, he'll come back and all that stuff. I don't care. I mean, I've got no problem with Devin White personally, but from a player standpoint, I just don't think he brings a lot to the table. I'd rather see KJ Britt out there being steady and maybe not making the splash plays, but also not making the mistakes either. And KJ Britt's, he's a guy that you probably, unless he really steps up in coverage this year and really makes some strides, which he's going to be working on this offseason, you want to eventually replace KJ Britt with somebody that's a little bit more spectacular. And you're going to have to replace Lavonte David sooner rather than later, right? He's 34. He's back for another year. But I don't know. I think it's time to turn the page on Devin White.
Wouldn't the boat get rocked more if they bring him back? Like, let's not forget, he was benched at the end of the season. Not because of an injury. He was benched because of his inconsistent play. Yeah. And they got it from KJ Britt, that consistent play. So what do you do this year? You signed Devin White. Maybe it's a cheap deal, and I get it. Todd Bowles has favoritism towards him.
Yeah.
You think all of a sudden he's just going to be cool being the backup? No, right. I don't think so. I think it just causes another headache.
He was a little sour last year, making what, $11-12 million. Like if he comes back making $5 million, you think he's going to be happy about that?
He stomped his feet. He was very vocal about it on social media. I know he posted something about Michael Jordan. But he posted Michael Jordan wearing the 45, which obviously Devin White is, and he's sponsored by Jordan as well.
Yeah.
But is he saying, like, Jay-Z has a line, when I come back like Jordan wearing the 4 or 5, does that mean come back to the Bucs? Does that mean I'm just going to make a comeback as a player and really up my game? I think it causes more headaches than solutions with Devin White coming back to the Bucs, and I think everyone kind of needs a refreshing of their of just their overall path.
Yeah, I'd rather have this guy back, right?
Yeah,
Lavonte David. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're okay with Lavonte back. I don't think that it would have been good for Todd Bowles to lose both of his inside linebackers, but the fact that Lavonte is back, I think it allows this team to move on from Devin and roll with the KJ Britt or Servassier Dennis. If he makes more strides at middle linebacker, I think that they view him as the eventual Lavonte David replacement at Mo linebacker.
Yeah.
But there's nothing slowing Lavonte David down. He might be here for the next 2 or 3 years. The way he's playing some really good football. So the Buccaneers, it's funny how at 5:00, just after the show ended,
when this episode ends.
Exactly.
That's how it's gone the whole week.
So Lavonte's back, right? We had the Baker press conference. Jordan Whitehead's back. We don't mean to shove Lavonte in a corner. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Right?
No.
But that's how the news kind of flowed today. But we are excited that Lavonte David is back, and I think that certainly helps things out. Jordan Whitehead will kind of be the conversation tomorrow. And if you guys want to change the topic of the show at any time, all you have to do is super chat. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But at 4:00 tomorrow, Jordan Whitehead is back with the Bucs. So it's like Mello says, just got here. But did you talk about Jordan Whitehead signing? Can't believe he's coming back. Yeah, we talked about it at the top of the show because it was newsworthy. But we're going to dedicate some more time to that tomorrow. And anything else you want to talk about on Thursday's show at 4:00. So make sure you stay tuned to Pewter Report TV, the YouTube home for our Pewter Report podcast.
Just a reminder that Lavonte David contract, it's a 1-year deal worth $9 million, could go up to $10 million on incentives and things like that. So Lavonte does get a pay raise, gets an upgrade in the payment. And absolutely, not many people are more deserving than Lavonte David. We said it over and over, but the most tackles he's had, and tackles for loss, and there's one other stat as well, but most tackles and tackles for loss that he's had since 2015 and 2016. Yeah. Sacks as well. Sacks was the other one. So clearly still playing at a high rate. Took a little bit of a discount to help out the Bucs last season. This year he gets paid, and the Bucs can pay him, and they want to pay him as well because we know how important relationships between the players and Jason Light are to Jason Light. So very happy for Lavonte. Congratulations to him. And again, another checked box that gets us closer to celebration of Bucs fans.
In keeping with our tradition, our next mock draft will come out next week. We like to see what the Bucs do in free agency, which holes they fill. And so we usually give it about a week or 10 days to see what the team does in free agency, and then we do our mock. So look for the mock middle of next week. Appreciate you asking about that, Ren. We've got another super chat here.
Yes, we do. From Mark Fisher, a.k.a. Revfish. Thanks for the $4.99 super chat. The real question is, when will Baker start making insurance commercials from Raymond James Stadium like in Cleveland? Love the show. Yeah, he kind of got asked about that today by JP Peterson. Yeah, JC or JP about.
Yeah, it was one of the two,
Yeah, are you moving into the stadium? Blah, blah, blah. Baker had a joke to it. I think it'd be better if he moved into the pirate ship and slept there because it's very Tampa specific and not just like living underneath the stadium. But
he gets his own cannons too. How cool is that?
He gets to fire the cannons. It'd be an interesting alarm clock to get up in the morning with the cannons firing. But
not sure Emily and the baby would dig that, right?
Yeah,
finally got the baby to sleep. Baker, and you're firing the cannons.
Yeah, not conducive to a baby, I don't think. But again, that goes into Baker playing better, gets more ad deals, all that fun stuff. I forgot what car commercial or whatever he was slinging at the Super Bowl when he was making his rounds, but something with brakes and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, more of that to come, I think, for Baker if he continues to play well, if he continues to bake.
He deserves it. He's a good pitch man. I mean, I've enjoyed the commercials. I thought they were funny. Yes. Was it progressive? Was it progressive commercials?
Yeah. That's where I think living in the stadium.
Yeah. So I thought they were good. He's a good pitch man. If we had money, we'd pay for him to endorse Pewter Report, but but we don't. We can't afford it. At the same time, too, we have to remain neutral and fair and all of that. So yeah, it's been a fun week worth of coverage here, and it's not over yet. We're only to Wednesday. I think there's more signings on the way, Matt. I think Jason Light is just getting started, and he and Mike Greenberg. I checked with Greenberg. They still have some cap room. They don't have to do anything just yet, but when the time comes, they have 4 avenues to create more money. They can either take that $12 million that Jamel Dean has in terms of a base salary and convert some of that into a roster bonus.
Yeah.
And push a little bit of that money into next year. Same thing with Vita Vea. I believe Vita Vea is $15.5 million, I think, or $15 million for his base salary. That. So there's some room there. And also, too, Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. on those 1-year static deals right now, the 5th-year option, 18 plus for Tristan, 17 plus for Winfield with the franchise tag. If they get contract extensions, they can lower that cap hit for this year and create more money there. So plenty of money to still entice some free agents, to acquire a player via trade, to pay the rookies this summer when their contracts will need to be signed. Buccaneers looking in pretty good shape right now heading into the draft, and I think they'll make a couple more moves here sooner rather than later.
I think that will be the case. And when they do make more moves, make sure you go over to pewterreport.com to see all of the insight and analysis and everything that comes with it on pewterreport.com, the best place for all your Bucs coverage. You can follow us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report. You can also check out our YouTube channel, which you're on right now, which is Pewter Report TV. We already got clips up from the Baker Mayfield / Jason Light press conference today. More to come from those as well. We got clips during the season, during the offseason, opinions, things from events. A lot of great stuff on our YouTube channel and more to come as the season goes along. Obviously, draft season is upon us. We'll have the live draft stream coming up during the draft in a month from now. We'll talk about that more at a later date. But yeah, please like and subscribe.
I asked Todd Bowles today, he was in attendance, and of course so was Jason Light and so was John Spytek. So they didn't have anybody at the Georgia Pro Day today outside of some regional scouts. Maybe Mike Beal was there, their vice president of player personnel. Maybe some of the area scouts, maybe Byron Kiefer, who's heading up the college scouting department now. They had some people there, but it wasn't like the big guns. And I asked Todd Bowles, I'm like, so why aren't you at the Georgia Pro Day today? He said, well, I'm going there in a couple of weeks. Obviously, his son Troy's a linebacker there. That's Tyke Smith right there. Keep an eye on him. Matt's going to have a story later this week on the 3 Georgia defensive backs that the Buccaneers had formal interviews with in Indianapolis. So stay tuned for that story on pewterreport.com. One of the many stories we have. We talked to Liam Cohen today. We talked to Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, Jason Light. Plenty of content coming your way on pewterreport.com. But Todd Bowles said he'll be up there in 2 weeks to watch a little spring ball, to visit his son Troy, who's a linebacker. Probably going to be a starter this year, which is exciting for him. So he's going to get all the scoop on the Georgia Bulldogs. And he even kind of looked at me and said, we already have all the intel we need right now, but we'll go get some more.
Plus, I wouldn't be surprised if next week we get something from Jordan Whitehead, maybe Lavonte David. So a couple more press conferences coming up soon, which
advanced photo parts.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, another good show in the books. That's going to do it for us. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. as we talk more about the Jordan Whitehead signing over on the Pewter Report podcast. Out.